Okay, Dave, you're in. What do you want?
Okay. First, I want to talk about that fucking ridiculous Platonism nonsense, and then I want to go into scientific realism.
Okay.
Okay, so a lot of people like to play this off as if there's like some mystery about mathematics being able to explain things. That's not. If you actually look at mathematics, the vast majority of it doesn't describe shit. It's just sort of like a
Circle jerk system?
it's almost like art. But so the reason why
Wait, have I talked to you before?
Yeah, we have.
Oh, okay, I remember. You're the guy that came on and I rolled my eyes really hard because I thought it was going to be really dumb, but you were pretty smart. You talked to Rem about the incommensurability and all that. Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, okay, cool. All right.
So, like, the reason that people think mathematics is, like, so absolutely amazing at describing things is because we select those branches of mathematics that are really good for describing things.
Okay.
There's no, like, esoteric mystery behind it. But, I mean, further on, I'm just like, so how seriously are you taking, like, the whole, like, anti-realism about science thing?
Pretty seriously, but what do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean by serious?
Like, are you... have you sufficiently drifted over to the dark side of anti-realism about science?
Pretty much, but I mean, I still acknowledge that, assuming that we value, like, human well-being as a general concept, that science still gives us incredibly powerful tools to explore that and improve that. Does that...
Yeah, but I mean, so, I think a lot of people are kind of, like, using, these arguments for scientific anti-realism that don't really work. So, like, what was your biggest reason? Like, the whole incommensurability thing, or?
Well, no, like, I guess, what are we talking about when we say anti-realism, I guess?
Like, anti-realism as in it's not describing anything. It's kind of just like a useful fiction.
Are you fucking serious, dude? I fucking hate this shit-ass fucking game.
Happy year.
Hold on, Mr. Woody's behind me, he's got a shotgun, Mr. Woody, he's behind me, Mr. Woody! Oh, no, he started chasing me. Okay, sorry. I think that, wait, can you go deeper on that statement? Oh shit, he's back! I'm sorry, wait, Mr. Wood!
Yeah, so, like, do you think that science describes things in the real world, or do you think it's like a kind of a useful fiction which kind of like continually will update itself and it's not really literally true,
I
right?
hope that it's making descriptions of things that have some very real underlying physical property, yeah. I don't think I'm as anti-realist as, like, Rem is. So, like,
Okay,
for instance, I believe, like, an electron exists, but, like, maybe an electron itself doesn't exist. Maybe there's some underlying thing, and an electron is, like, a category, an arbitrary category that we've invented that describes some collection. But I would hope that at some point it's referring to some real entity of the world, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. My biggest issue with Rem is that I think he's using historical arguments for anti-realism.
Oh,
right?
sure. His incommensurability argument. I have to talk to him more about this. I don't want to, like, trash talk it because I must not understand it. But it sounds very, very unconvincing to me. Incommensurability sounds real dumb, but I must not be understanding
I think the premise behind incommensurability is that you take two theories, and you'll take an entity like an electron, and so two different theories, because of their different mathematical structures, will define an electron differently. And that's true, but I don't think it's relevant at all.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. What you just said, I don't think it logically follows that even if two things are incommensurable, I don't think that it logically then follows that neither one can be referring to any sort of real entity in the world or whatever. That sounds
right.
It just sounds logically invalid.
His specific thing is that because of incommensurability, you can't claim that progress is made, because two theories are so vastly incomparable. You can't actually, like, compare them and pick which one is true. But I don't. So the issue with that argument is that it assumes that the transition from one theory to another is just like snap. But usually what you see throughout history is there's a ton of, like, intermediate steps, which are all kind of slightly different from one another, right? It's like a fossil record.
Yeah, and hopefully those steps are being made generally because we think that the newer theory offers a more powerful description because better descriptions tend to give us a better view of the world, et cetera, right?
So
for instance, like, switching from, like, Newtonian gravity to, like, quantum mechanics, you know, like a quantum view, or no, I shouldn't say gravity, I'm sorry, not quantum gravity, but, like, from classical mechanics to, like, quantum mechanics or whatever, like, we generally do that solely because it gives us a better explanatory power of the world, right?
Yeah, well, so I think, like, even that sentence is kind of like an issue that a lot of people run into. So like the switch from classical mechanics to quantum mechanics wasn't. We already weren't in classical mechanics. If you look at the history of 20th century science, people at that time were really into electromagnetism.
Okay.
And they were trying to fully reduce all of physics to electromagnetism.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it's like, I think this is kind of one of those things that like deflates the whole inventionability thing, because it's not the switch from Newtonian mechanics to general relativity. I don't think it happened because Newtonian mechanics had already been surpassed by then, right?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to convince me. I like I said, I already don't. I'm not a big. The incommensurability argument just never made sense to me. I guess like maybe I shouldn't say I don't know what qualifies you as being a scientific anti-realist. I don't know where that starts or where it doesn't start. I guess like my main problem right now is that are you familiar with the term like scientism?
Yeah, I think that's a kind of kind of abused by philosophers and theologians who want to inflate the value of their field.
Wait, you think the word scientism is like an invalid, like kind of like an insult, or?
I mean, I don't recognize it as a valid categorization. I think it's kind of.
You don't think you wouldn't say that people like Sam Harris are like pretty like illustrative of like that idea of scientism?
Well, I mean, Sam Harris is just like not a very bright guy, to be honest.
Yeah, but he's got a lot of followers in there. I think that there's that trend, like, not to sound mean, but I think there's that trend amongst like the STEM lords, you know, that like science can give us the answer to all sorts of problems, even odd problems. Like it's just that idea that you can use like engineering to solve problems of morality and shit. I think that's a pretty, I shouldn't say commonly held belief. I'm kind of like, I guess we would have to poll people or whatever, but.
I mean, I think the whole thing about morality being like an inescapable kind of like not problem is a little.
Well, yeah. Let me actually
I agree with it
fuck morality. This is the big thing that I have trouble with lately. That really bothers me is when I have conversations relating to transgender people. It is very hard to talk to people because people think that like the notion of gender or the notion of sex is some rigid scientific fact. When I think that upon further investigation, it's absolutely ridiculous. That both gender and sex are categorizations that we value, that we've kind of like established, and hopefully they refer to some underlying scientific fact. But the organizations of those things are absolutely not scientific. They're completely value-based, no? Or do you agree or disagree with that, I guess? And then we can go from there.
I no, because like the cause of being transgender is something that can be studied by science.
The wait, hold on one second. Okay, sorry. Say the what is what?
I don't agree because the cause of being transgender or the cause of having some of these things is something that can be studied and is fully within the realm of science, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, I don't think there's like a tension between gender and sex or science. I mean,
I'm sorry. But the tension that I'm referring to is not those topics themselves. It's that when I argue with people or conservatives in general, a lot of people think that, for instance, there's no room to debate anything related to sex or gender because science answers these questions. Like science can tell us like how to make sexes, or science can tell us like how to make genders. When I don't think that's true at all. That the organization of those things into categories is very much a value-driven process that, you know, science can kind of give us some information about, you know, just give us descriptive facts, but how we ultimately decide to organize things is completely up to us. Do you agree with that or disagree with that, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of conservatards who kind of abuse the whole, like, science tells me that transgenders are humans.
And I guess that's kind of what's moved me. I guess I wouldn't say that, like, I wouldn't say I'm a total anti-realist, but that's kind of what has moved me more in that direction more when I talk to people. It's very hard to get them over that hump of understanding that, you know, in science, the value statements have to come before any sort of scientific statement can be organized in any meaningful way.
Yeah. I can agree on that.
Yeah. Okay, did you have what was the next thing? Or was that everything?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. Don't ever say in chat like I want to talk or whatever. Just identify yourself as someone I've talked to before, because 95% of the people, because especially after philosophy discussions, I get a lot of real dumb people sometimes that want to come in and talk. I thought you were just like a random dipshit or whatever. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, yeah. Anytime, just let me know who you are, and I'll remember your name though now, Dave the Dank. Okay.
Right.
All right, cool.
Dave the Dank.
Thanks a lot, buddy.